Hi, this is Joe Bolen. Welcome to learning about VisualBasic.net. Well, we're starting to learn how to code in VisualBasic.net to use databases. And right now we're looking at Microsoft Access database and how to code against it, and also some of the issues related to it. In video number 63, we went out with Microsoft Access and created a database called SampleDB with two tables in it, a customer table and an order table. Then in the next video, video number 64, we created our first Visual Basic application against that table. And we discovered that there were some problems with it. And I'm going to show you those problems, and we're going to put in the fix for this one in this video. So let's see, first of all, our problem. Let's go to our live program running, and you'll see I have three customer records set up here to represent the top part of our form, and the bottom part of our form represents the orders of that customer. I'm going to go to the second record here where we only have one, and I'm going to add a record down here, and you'll see the auto number kicks in with a -1 initially. And as we do an update against the database and actually insert the row into the database, Microsoft Access will automatically increment the order ID number. Also note that the customer ID number came in from our customer file into the record. I'm going to add the date on that. And let's put in 50 for the amount of the order. And you'll see that it's there, and I'm going to hit the save. And the thing is, we will not see this change, and that's one of the problems with Microsoft Access. It's actually gone out to the database, it's actually changed and brought back a new value, but our Visual Basic program does not yet see that new ID. Let's also add a new customer. I'm going to put myself in. I'll use my Bolen Computers, which is a fictitious company, and I'll put myself as a contact, and I'll use a fictitious phone number as well. Okay, I'm going to hit save, and once again the customer ID has not updated in this. And if I try to add both a customer and the orders at the same time, because this hasn't updated where I need it down in the orders file, I'll actually have a program halt because it'll throw an error. So we do have these updated. It's just that our program does not know about the changes that Microsoft Access has performed against the records in the table. So let's take a look, and we'll see that it actually did update those. I'll hit that just one more time just to be certain. Then I'm going to rerun the program. And there we go, it's up and running again. And I'm going to go to that second record, and you'll see my order came in. I've got a new order ID number, and there's my amount of 50. And I'll go to the end of the customer record area, and you'll see that I came in with a new number as well, and at this point I can add new orders. So it did update, but our Visual Basic program did not see it when we first tried to update it. So let's fix that problem. Let's take a look first of all at the issues related to that. So I'm going to bring up PowerPoint, and what I'd like you to do is pause your video and write down the URLs that I'm showing you, so that you can go out later on and take a look at the code that I'm presenting in this video. The main part of our code that we're going to look at is at pastebin.com, and you'll see the URL for that. And also you'll see other videos as well as this video out at youtube.com/users/BolenPresents. So remember that Pastebin will be the location for where you can look at code that I present in all my VideoTube series. Now let's take a look at the issue that we're dealing with Microsoft Access. And while people don't like me to use the term problem, it is a problem or an issue we have to address. During the insert of a Microsoft Access database table, the primary key does not return the new auto number identity generated value to the Visual Studio.NET written program. So anytime we have a situation where we're using auto number as the primary key out there, as well as some of the other values in a table, it's a possibility that we will not have the correct values after we've done an insert. And this problem occurs because Microsoft Access does not allow multiple batch query statements in one command. Actually, what we do normally in a insert command is we immediately turn around and retrieve back that primary key with a query command right after we issue the insert. But Microsoft Access does not allow us to issue such a batch command. Well, let's go on and look at how to address it. Well, first of all, we go out and we need to deal with the table adapters insert command. Now, the one thing is this issue is basically for strongly typed data sets. If we're coding everything by hand, we can code for the extra command that we need. But when we're working with a strongly typed data set, the table adapter opens and closes the connection automatically for us. So we have to intercept that open and close area and get the key while it's still open. And to do that, we go out with the select @ identity query against that table to pick up the new auto numbered field that was generated for us. By then modifying our strongly typed data set with a partial class, we can catch the table's updated event and catch that and issue the select @ identity command and retrieve that new key. Well, that sounds like a lot for those who are especially new to Microsoft Access and also dealing with Visual Basic.NET. But we'll see how that's done. And later on, as you develop your understanding, you'll see how easily this is taking place. Now, I'd like to take credit for what we're going to learn in this video, but in fact, this has been done very well by Beth Massey, who has an article out on the internet that you can read about. And I'm not creating anything particularly new from my own standpoint. She has an excellent article and she shows what I'm presenting to you. Now, there are other people out there that have similar ideas, but she presents what I think is perhaps the cleanest looking solution to deal with this particular issue. And I highly recommend you go out and take a look at her article out on the internet. Well, let's go in and deal with fixing our program. So we've got our program going here, and we're going to take a look, first of all, at our code behind this to begin with, so we can understand what we had. We basically, as we load the form in place, we did a quick cosmetic change to the data grid so that our column headers would be a nice bold font on that with this statement. And then we made certain that our table adapters issued the fill command correctly. Since this was a parent-child relationship, in this case customers to orders, we made sure that the customer table was filled first and then the orders table. If we did it the reverse, we would possibly end up with an error. So it's important that we make certain we do the parent table first in the load, then the child table or tables afterwards. Then we added a little line of code for when we added a new row to the data grid. And we used the orders binding source, adding new event to do an end edit on the customer binding source, so we would make certain that the customer information has been fully bound and flushed back to our process. So this is our code. Much of it has been generated automatically. We only added the orders binding source, adding new event. We added just the cosmetic area for the data grid view, And then we made certain that our orders were put in after we had our customers. Well, that's our code for there. Now let's take a look at the issue that we have here. I'm going to go to the data set, and you'll see the data set over here on the side. I've already double clicked on it. It's over here, and I want to show you that we have two table adapters. We have the customer table adapter and the orders table adapter. And I'm going to show you where the problem is. I'm going to highlight the customer table adapter and right click on it and go to configure, and I'm going to hit the advanced option area. In the advanced option area, you'll see this refresh the data table grayed out. And because it's Microsoft Access and it will not allow for a batch command, this cannot be issued. So it is not an option for us. We have to do that retrieval of that primary key. Now, normally, this one would be an option that we could use if we were using Microsoft SQL database to go against. But we don't have that option with Microsoft Access. Okay, so now what we need to do is code a solution for this. And what I'm going to do is go up to my project here, and I'm going to insert a helper class that Beth Massey talks about. I'm going to hit add, and I'm going to use an existing item. And in this case, I'm going to bring in real quickly the location to find that. Okay. And there's my Access ID helper that I'm bringing in. It's a new class. And now I'll show you that new class I just brought in. Let me change the size of the code here so it's bigger. Basically, we bring in the import statement because we're dealing with OLDB, so we need that to help in coding our lines below. And what we're doing is we're bringing in or passing the transaction that we're working with, as well as the particular row that we're working on. E will contain the row that we're working on. And as we come in, we're going to be looking at the status and trying to find out if that table does have a primary key. And if it does, we'll have a value here for the primary key. And if we do have that primary key, then we're going to set up a new command to follow, doing our select @ identity. So we're going to have a brand new command that we're going to issue, and we're going to do what's called an execute scalar, which brings back one value. That value happens to be our auto number value from the table, and we convert it to integer and then put it back into the key of our row, and then apply the accept changes on our row, and that gives us our primary key. This nice little table does all the work for us on that. We just need to call this to allow this to take place. So we need to bring in the Access ID helper. Once again, this is out at pastebin.com or at Beth Massey's article site. Now let's go into actually applying, accessing this Access ID helper. I'm going to hit Save All real quickly so it's in there. Then I'm going to go back to my data set, and I'm going to go to a view code F7. And there is actually a partial class behind the data set. And there we see the partial class sample DB data set. And I could code against that, but I'm really going to add something here instead of coding against that. What I'm going to be adding is a brand new container called a namespace, and this namespace is going to be of our table adapters that we have. So I'm going to hit namespace, and then I'm going to put in sample DB dataset, and probably my IntelliSense will kick in, and I'm just going to tap on that, and we're going to bring in the sample DB dataset table adapters namespace. And then I'm going to add some room. Now for each table that I'm working with, in this case the customer table and the order table, I need to add also a partial class. So I'm going to do a partial class, and the name of it, first of all, will be the customers table adapter that I'm going to add in. I'm going to create some space here. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the orders table adapter. There we go. We've got those in place. Now we're going to add into each of those partial class of the customer table adapter and of the orders table adapter. We're going to go against the adapter itself. In this case, it's called underscore adapter. I'm going to against the customer table adapter here. And then I'm going to go over to the event of the row updated. And I'll do a wraparound here. And while I'm at it, I'll make the code a little larger for you to see. There. So I've got that event in. I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to go to the orders adapter. And I'm going to go to its row updated event. So this fires off right after it begins to update, but before it's finished, I'm going to then go out and access my access ID helper. So I'm going to type in access. You'll see my ID helper came in with IntelliSense. And then I'm going to go against the set primary key. And what I'm going to pass into it is the transaction, ME transaction, and pass into it the E value, which will contain the row. Here's the E value, and there's the transaction coming in, and that's all I need there. I'm going to do the exact same thing for other table adapter or orders table adapter. I'm going to paste that in place, and that's all it's needed. So basically, I'm catching before the total completion of the transaction is finalized with the customer table adapter. I'm going to go out and get that primary key and set it. Same thing is going to happen for the orders table and get that as well. So let me save all and let's run it. Okay, let me make that a little bit bigger for you. Now we've got it in place. Let's go first of all to that second record where we've got this one. Let's add another record at this point. Once again, it brought in a negative value. I'm going to bring in today's date. Tab over and put in an amount. We'll put in 100 for this one. And then I'm going to tab out. Now I'm going to hit save all here, and we'll see if this updates. And it did. And that's exactly what we want to have happen. Let's go to the very end where I have one. Now we know that this one will take a new order. So if I come down here, I can add a new order. Once again, I'll use today's date. And I'll put in a value of 50 for 23. On that, hit save there, and it updated as well. Now let's try the ultimate one. Let's try to add a brand new customer and a row order for this customer. So we'll just put in test customer. Test contact. I'll leave the phone number alone, and then I'm going to come on right down and add a new row here. We'll put in 7/22/2015, which is today's date, and I'll put a value of 50 for the order on that. Now we have both the customer ID number and also our order ID number that need to be updated. Let's see if we get an error when I do this. We didn't. We've got a brand new customer ID, and that customer ID then came on in down and updated that, and we've got our Microsoft Access primary key fix in place and working. And we solved the problem of the primary key in our program. So let's review what we did. We added to the data set, let me go large again here, to the data set. This is the code behind on the data set. We added into it a namespace of the dataset's table adapters. In this case, it was called the sample DB dataset table adapters. So I added that namespace in place. That's our container to hold this information. Then I added a partial class for each table adapter that I have that I'm working with. And then I called my adapters row updated event, and then accessed the access ID helper class program that I added in to set the primary key, passing into it the transaction and the e-augment of the row being updated. And I brought in also my access helper class, and I can create that by doing an add new class as well. I just happen to have mine out there and save some time typing by bringing this in. But this is the area that took care of getting our new key by going out and doing another quick query to get the @ identity, bringing it back, executing that command with the execute scaler, converting it to a integer, and applying it to the primary keys value and accepting those changes. That was it, and that made it work, and I'm a happy camper on that. So let's review. We do have an issue with Microsoft Access. We're working with it with a strongly typed data set. We have to apply a little workaround helper class that Beth Massey provides for us with her article. And then we call that in our partial class of our data set. So anytime you're working with Microsoft Access, this is the simple fix you've got to add to it to make it work properly, like the other databases we'll be working with later on. You will not have to deal with this when you're working with Microsoft SQL, either the SQL local DB or the regular Microsoft Express or full version server on that. That is allowed because those databases are full-fledged databases that allow for a batch update. And so while you might like Microsoft Access because you're familiar with it, I highly recommend you move on to these other databases. They're all free, so you don't have to have something extra, and I'll show you how to program with Microsoft Local DB as well as Microsoft Access as well. But this gives you the working fix for Microsoft Access. And I hope you'll get your hands dirty in the code. Go out to pastebin.com and take a look at this. Try it out, work with it. As we work with other programs, you'll see me do pretty much the same thing in terms of getting it set up, but you'll have to add this helper if you're using Microsoft Access. So next time, take care, get your hands dirty in the code.